Good morning. Welcome back to the morning meeting. Sean Spicer, Tim Hogan, and Mark Halpern. Thank you for joining at this new time, 9 Eastern. Whether you're watching on YouTube or here on Two-Way, we appreciate you making us part of your morning routine. President Biden has no public events, a lot of interest in some quarters about when he'll make a statement. I think he'll make a statement probably when he's a little less angry and sad, and where he's got a stronger voice. The vice president has an event at the White House with NCAA champions. That'll be widely watched. And Donald Trump has no events. He'll be taking calls from journalists, as he did all yesterday, hilariously, because so many people have his cell phone and they just call him up and he answers and chats away. Sean knows all about that. And J.D. Vance, who I think is unlikely to get very much attention over the next month, unless there's a vice presidential debate. He has two events, one a homecoming event in Ohio, and then one in Virginia. In addition, there's the head of the Secret Service is testifying on Capitol Hill. Of course, a massive story, attempted assassination of a presidential candidate, a former president, and still a ton of unanswered questions. And there'll be, I think, more calls for her resignation, including from Democrats. So we'll watch all of that all day, but we're going to focus our time today on the big questions around Harris versus Trump. What she needs to do to stand this thing up and try to get some momentum, how things shape up in terms of potential vice presidential picks. And the big question is just the dynamics of Harris versus Trump and where that stands. So, guys, we're going to kick it around a little bit and take questions from the group. If you want to get in, question or comment, please raise your electronic hand. We'd love to hear from a diversity of voices. So if you've not asked a question in the past, don't be shy, step right up. And we'd love to hear from you folks, and we'll get to you in just a moment. Sean, I want to start with you and ask you to address this question of Democrats say the Trump people are scared. They're scared. They're thrown off. I don't get the sense that they're scared. They're a little worried because they've got to deal with some change. But do you get the sense they're scared?
No, I was through 2016. I've seen scared, and it involved an Access Hollywood tape. This is I don't even think shocked. I mean, everyone knew this was coming. Before I do that, real quick, just point of personal privilege here. I want to say there's a value to this meeting. Mark Halpern's reporting last week. I know that everyone pushed back on it. That's why these two ways are critical. I mean, you nailed it, Mark. I get to say it because I know you will never. But I mean, it's amazing that this forum is where I think that discussion really bore. So kudos to you on that. And
thank you, sir,
for being part of it. Here's what I will say. I think what worries me more than anything, I don't think anyone's scared. I think that a lot of folks, and I would say this writ large, are focused on the wrong thing. Number one, Kamala Harris is the nominee. Talk of Michelle Obama or Hillary Clinton is stupid and moronic. And if you're really interested in thinking she's going to be the nominee, then I would like to sell you a blockbuster video franchise. Number two, I think that these talls about getting him to resign are equally stupid. The idea that we want to run against an incumbent president is ridiculous in Kamala Harris. And number two, he's not going to do it. So every moment, I was explaining to folks last night, in a campaign, you get X number of pitches, if you will. Pick your analogy. And every pitch that we throw that isn't focused on going over the plate and winning is a wasted pitch. Calling for him to resign, talking about Michelle Obama is a wasted pitch. It's Kamala Harris, and we should stay focused on that. I do think that we are going to have to adjust significantly. It is a different race. She motivates different people. She alleviates the mental acuity issue. That I still think we win. It's a different race, and the quicker that people can adjust to it, the better.
Thank you. Tim, how psyched is your party?
I mean, it is like a weight has been lifted. We are in a totally different situation. Mark, again, your reporting, like Sean said, ends up being accurate. I think you should write a book about it, working title Game Change. I don't know. I've just been kicking that around. You can use it if you want. The Republicans might not be scared, but to Sean's point, you only get so many pitches, and they have a wasted pitch, I think, partially from the RNC because now the ticket has completely changed. I will say I don't think that they have their feet underneath them necessarily about what the messaging is. I mean, I saw Jason Miller on ABC talking about how Kamala Harris is going to ban plastic straws, literally grasping at straws. So I think there's going to be a reset with Republicans trying to figure out exactly what their message is against Harris. But for Democrats, at the very least, I mean, it's like an instant change, right? polling from right after the debate showed that 77% of Democrats would be happy with her as the nominee. We alleviate the age question. In national polling, she starts with a point better than President Biden in places like Pennsylvania and Virginia. She has instantaneous improvement in those areas. Her unfave is better. So there needs to be some momentum going forward, and it's a huge task in front of her. But we're in such a better position, and I think Republicans, maybe scared is not the word, but concerned and understanding that it's a totally different race now.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's like anything else. You invite a bunch of people to dinner and a handful of new people show up. I think there's an orientation aspect to this. Tim's right. We're going to have to figure out exactly the fine-tuned message because we haven't spent a ton of money and time on it for obvious reasons. But they're starting from zero campaign-wise. She's got to go on a VP search. So this pause that's happening buys everybody some time to refine their issue. And I think that's important. The one last thing I'll say is that Tim equally gets kudos for his analogy last week. I think that I've given him credit for it, and I think it was right. This idea that it's raining out, she was the person in the car with an umbrella that said, "Get in, or I can keep you dry." Everybody rallied around her, and you saw no dissension in the ranks. And I think that's what's happening. They may not be fully on board or excited about her, but I think that they're saying he did the right thing. He stepped aside. We have no choice now to rally around her. I don't think that. Anyway, so I think there's a reorientation on a lot of sides.
Let me clear up some things. I see in the chat that Joe Manchin says he's not running on CBS. He was. I mean, it's a joke to think that Joe Manchin would win over Democratic convention delegates. I mean, they are not Manchin Democrats. So that was ridiculous.
He's not a Democrat.
I've said, right, he's not even a Democrat. Have to re-register. The people who aren't endorsing her, like Barack Obama, the congressional leaders, they're doing it to help her. They're not shopping for another candidate. They're trying to dilute the impression that this is a inside party power people picking the nominee. She wants to be seen as earning it. That's why when I originally reported, which was true at the time, that President Biden wasn't going to endorse her, same thing. He changed under pressure. But the speculation that they're not all on board with Kamala Harris is absurd. They'll all be on board. The DNC is working out the process. I got a lot of questions in the last 24 hours. What's the process going to be? They're working it out. I don't think it really matters. Whether there's a virtual roll call or not, whatever happens, she'll be nominated and she'll be the nominee. I have no idea when she'll name a running mate. Guys, I'm still thinking it's Mark Kelly. It makes so much sense. The more it gets talked about, the more sense it makes. We had Meghan McCain on two-way yesterday, extolling his personality, etc. There's no perfect candidates, but to me, Kelly is head and shoulders above these other choices. Tim, what do you think?
I know. Yeah, I was a Shapiro fan. I think now I've switched a little bit to Cooper, reading a little bit more about his biography. First elected to office at the age of 29. Does that remind you of anybody? In North Carolina, has won 6 statewide races there since 2000. Knows Kamala Harris well. They were both attorney generals. She has been down there at rallies with him, sort of test running him, although, probably would not be an admission that they would make in previously. And I think puts to the extent that a VP can put a state in play, he would do so or help boost that with Kamala Harris at the top of the ticket. So
Tim, is he an astronaut, Tim?
He's not. He could be. I don't know how long it takes. We just launch him into space, come back.
So you think Cooper is intriguing and maybe better than Kelly, or you say he's unambiguously better than Kelly?
I think he's an intriguing pick. I don't think he's unambiguously better than Kelly, but I think he puts North Carolina in play. I think he has an interesting profile. And also, you're not plucking someone out of a state where you've got to go through a re-election. He's term limited. So there's that as well.
All right, Sean.
Can I just say, look, I would argue that we have a better chance of keeping Arizona than maybe Pennsylvania. So if you really just said take someone, park them, and your only goal is to win a state, I would take Shapiro. I think Kelly might be popular. I'm just telling you, I think that we could hold Arizona on the immigration issue alone. No one gives a crap what I think on this, so who cares? But
I think Kelly has a potential with alchemy with her to help nationally much more than a VP pick normally does. I don't see that in Cooper, and maybe not even in Shapiro. All right, thank you guys. All right, we're going to go to your questions, comments, ask you to unmute. Yesterday, I took some heat from asking Republicans what they thought. I'm actually more interested now in what Republicans think on this question, or at least equally interested, because it's the Republicans who now have to adapt to the new terrain. So I'm going to unmute Pete, who yesterday, Pete's a Californian, he's a Republican. He's long said he didn't think Harris had any chance to win. Pete, tell everybody what you told me yesterday by email about Harris's chances of winning now. In your estimation.
I think. Thanks, Mark. I think up to 40% now. I'm concerned that she could do really, really well. And my suggestion to Harris would be to read your book, How to Beat Trump. Then also she should do a Sister Soldier plus Morning in America, and not replay Orange Man Bad. You're a sexist, because everyone knows that about Trump. So
Pete, hold on. This is Pete. Hold on. This is solid gold, but I want to contextualize you a little bit more because I know your background, but I want to make sure everybody does. Pete is like very anti-Democrat. He's very pro-Republican, very conservative. Has been very down on Kamala Harris, and I say this as a shorthand. He's happy to see her mocked. I'll say that. And yet now he's saying 40%, and he's a very savvy guy. I think that's pretty significant, folks. Just one man's opinion, but I think it's pretty significant. Pete, keep going.
Yeah, my concern is that it's going to be a rerun of 2016. Trump's going to roll out the old Hillary attacks. Kamala's going to roll out the old Orange Man Bad attacks, and it's going to sort of irritate everybody, and it'll probably be really close. And who knows, could win. And then my prediction for an October surprise might be Meacham's trying to put Trump in jail. I think would powerhouse the Trump base. So I think Meacham, if he's smart, just stays out of it. But who knows what's going to happen there? But I think I'd like to see Trump do a Sister Soldier in reverse, take the high road, and let Nikki Haley be the attack. There's be enough. There'll be enough Harris attack dogs that Trump should actually surprise people and take the high road. That I think would shock people in a positive way.
Thank you, Pete. Alex Castellanos, who the other day on Two-Way said he thought Harris could go ahead in the polls, but wouldn't think she would win necessarily, but that she could go ahead. Alex, I'm wondering with the in light of the events yesterday, where you see her prospects at this point. Is she an underdog? Can't win? Even, Stephen, what do you think it is now?
I think her prospects, at least for the immediate future, are pretty good. She's going to get a hell of a ride. We had two candidates that people didn't want in the race and didn't want to vote for. Now there's an alternative. Her image is pliable still. Yes, she's well known, but she is soft, and to that extent undefined. I think the key to the race now is who's the first to define Kamala. And if the Democrats screw around,
Totally agree.
If they screw around for a long time with this, she's not really the nominee yet and has to earn it. Boy, that's a mistake. That's a window you don't want to give Donald Trump. But assuming, I thought her first spot was really good. I think that's a great message. That
spot, by the way, is from 2020. It's not a new spot.
Oh, well, it's a new spot now.
It's pretty good. You could take it right off the shelf and run it, but I made the same mistake.
Recycle that, and the green agenda. So I think she's going to outraise Trump for the immediate future. She's going to throw Biden completely under the bus and separate herself from the Biden agenda. This whole idea that Biden's done some sacrificial act here. Yeah, after Nancy Pelosi yanked out his fingernails. So I think the left is going to let Kamala moderate and still hang with her. And so I think Trump is still, in my view, favored to win this election. I think ultimately she is who she is, and there's just too much information for voters, so truth wins out even in politics. I think she won't make it. I think she's going to lose a lot of older white seniors that the Democrats have been getting, though she will energize younger voters. But at the end of the day, I think Trump still has the edge here because of the Biden record. But I don't think Trump has ever been in more danger in this election and closer to losing than he is right now.
Thank you, Alex. Tim or Sean, you guys want to react to that?
Yeah, I would just say, I think, as we said, the next 7 days are crucial. How we define Kamala Harris and what she does on her end are equally. And I think Alex is right. Who grabs the poll first, right, is going to be critical. And so how the Trump campaign and the RNC define her is going to be important, and how she starts to define herself and step out on her own is important.
Tim?
Yeah, there's a push and pull between, the coronation here and a somewhat waiting period and getting out there. But I think she just has to hit the campaign trail. She has to be out there doing rallies. I think, doing a series of events that shows more than what President Biden was able to do. So like 2-3 events a day. And I don't know when we get to the place, but she should request more debates, is my opinion. She should take as many moments as she can with Trump on a debate stage.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the one interesting thing is I will say this: the push and the pull is going to be done by the media on the coronation. She doesn't have to say anything. She's already gotten 140 plus House members, 23, 24 senators, 13 of the 23 governors. She's going to be coronated by the media. They're going to say she is the person, and that's good for her. Then she doesn't have to say it herself. But you can't start calling for debates until you're the nominee. And I think Trump's got that in his corner where he can say, sorry, until you get it, I'm not doing this again.
Sean, previously, President Trump's rhetorical position with Joe Biden was, I want as many dates as you'll do. If Kamala Harris says, I want 6 debates, do you think he'll agree? Do you think
I think he's going to buy time. I mean, look, I would argue,
but eventually, do you think if she wants more debates, you think he'll agree, or will he hide behind saying, I want all the debates to be on conservative media?
I think it's going to depend on how some of her appearances. If she comes out of the gate stumbling with some more word salads, he will relish the opportunity to do it. Whether it's a good move or not, he's going to say, look at her, I want to do it. But if she comes out strong, I think his staff might say, you can argue, hey, I already played this game, I'm not doing it again. I already did the debate. This was the deal I had with Joe, and you guys screwed with it. And he'll get out of it. But I think it's going to depend on how she handles herself. He just, as you know, he doesn't care what staff thinks. He's going to look at her appearances and say, I could take that on.
Right. Okay. Paul, longtime Democratic operative, official, fundraiser, etc. Paul, tell us what you think or ask your question.
Well, thank you, Mark. First of all, everybody's been right on this call, including Pete in California, except the number is higher than 40%. It's probably getting near 50. Question for the panel, for the co-hosts. In the dark, where the specialists play, right now, staffing, I think, matters more than anything, particularly because, as we know, the vice president doesn't have great management skills. What are the shots? What are the chances of us getting somebody like a Jim Messina to come in quickly and right the ship and get things going, and or someone else, or a team of people? And going to the point about getting her out there, the Democrats have a terrific bench of advanced people, many of whom are professionals in other fields, and they come together during campaigns. This is the time for the A team to get out there immediately. I think Tim is exactly right. So that's my question. Staffing.
Tim, you want to go first?
Yeah, I think running a presidential campaign is like running a $2 billion startup. And now we are 107 days out and we have a new person leading the startup. So it's a huge question, the staff question. But I think for the most part, and the indications we're getting so far, is that she's going to inherit the Biden Harris campaign staff. I haven't heard of any shakeup yet. I think there's a very high possibility that she brings some of her folks in to the top of that campaign. But the benefit that she has is that the campaign is already built, and you have a lot of very good veterans, very skilled staffers already on that campaign. And in the effort to make this a seamless transition, I think she's going to absorb 98% of that staff.
Look, she may absorb them. Mark's written about this. Politico's got a piece on it. We've all read it. She is a nightmare to work for. Let's be blunt. And I think that's going to be a problem. I get it. I actually think if you could get a Messina or a Pluff to jump in, that would be huge in itself. And really, I from an outside standpoint, from a Republican standpoint, that would be an eye popper. Okay. So right. Regardless of what I
think they should offer Pluff $10 million and say, you have to show up tomorrow, but we're going to pay you $10 million. That's what I would do. But
I just got to be, let's go back one step. I got to be honest with you. I cannot see how, if you're Harris, you trust that team up there.
Don't have a choice. She doesn't have anybody who can manage a winning. She doesn't. There's no, the current campaign manager is her person. And I think they got to keep everybody because there's no time. The machinery has to keep operating. but they're not. Their chances of winning, presidential campaigns are about the candidates primarily, but there's literally talent out there that could greatly increase their chances of winning. I don't know if Ken Melman will come on or not. Ken, if you're in a position to come on, raise your hand, please. But I just think there's talent, and it's got to be all hands on deck because they don't have any time to waste.
But I will say
everybody.
this: look, the one last thing I would say that from a flip side standpoint is that the question that a Pluff or Messina or any of these guys have to ask themselves is, am I on a suicide mission? I've got a pristine reputation. I mean, Mark, you're shaking your head. I'm just telling you, that's how I would answer the question.
Sure. That's why you got off from $10 million.
Yeah. Okay. Well, my point is go run the super PAC then.
Yeah, maybe. Somebody's got to run the actual thing. Paul, thank you. Mike, come on in, please.
Hey, thank you, Mark. First of all, thank you so much for doing this. These are wonderful and great job on your reporting, as it's been said. I am from Delaware County, Pennsylvania. I think this is like a 50-50 race. I think.
Can I ask who are you going to vote for? Like what?
I'm a Democrat. What
does this do to your thinking? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
you're
actually the guys that we want to talk to.
Yeah, so I was like a big Biden guy. Like I was at David Cohen's house when Biden announced. I was one of the donors that was there. Like I thought Biden 4 years ago was a great candidate. For me, I was like, I want my life back. That was my issue. And I was like, Biden is going to be normal and he's going to do things that are reasonable. And I think like Trump was crazy. So I was like, that's what I want. I think here you guys have been talking a lot about Mark Kelly. And I think like getting somebody like him who is calm and like normal is what it's going to take to win. I mean, that's just me. The other thing I would say, and I guess this was actually where my question was, like, I think Kamala can run a lot of different ways. I have a strong point of view on what I think is like a better way to run. I'm curious if you guys have heard anything about like what issues she might focus on, like how she might try to project herself, because I actually think she's got like 3 days to define who she is to America. And I think what she does with her staff, what she does on the issues she cares about. I mean, Mark, I think you've been talking about getting 3 policy proposals out. Like, I'm just curious if you've heard anything on where she may go.
I've heard people kibitzing, mostly sort of more centrist Democrats, saying she's got to have 3 new proposals that are, if not pure Sister Souljah, at least are more centrist. One pollster may or may not be on here who said if she doesn't run more centrist, she can't win, but that's the path to victory. So I have no idea what she will do, but that's the advice she's getting from at least some quarters. And as some people have said, the left is going to have to let her do it. If the left starts exploding in rage because she moves to the center on some stuff, they're suicidal because in the view of some, that's the only way she can win. Mike, thank you very much. I want to bring Ken Melman, who's nice enough to have raised his hand and who knows about winning presidential campaigns. Ken, what do you think of this question? If the vice president said, Ken, how should I approach my current staff versus layering more people in? What would you recommend?
So first, congratulations on not just the excellent reporting that you've done, but also the building, what you built, which is really this community you've built is unbelievably exciting. One learns a lot by participating in it, and I really think it's the future of media. So congratulations on that, and having 2 such excellent counterparties to talk with in the morning. I know Sean really well. I've all long respected him, and I'm enjoying listening to Tim. So to me, there are 6 things that you need to get right to win a presidential campaign. First, you need a theory of the case. I'm in the investing business today. You have an investment theory when you buy a business. You have a differentiated product. How are you going to make it better? What's the theory of the case? Trump's theory of the case is that the country wants someone who's a strong fighter. When Biden was elected in 2020, his theory of the case was people wanted a return to normalcy. The second thing you need essentially to embody attributes that reinforce that theory of the case. Trump obviously does that in an effective way. Biden in 2020, his boring kind of old guy thing reinforced that whole point. Second. Third, you need to ensure that your biography before that is also consistent. Was with Trump, was with Biden. Fourth, you need to figure out what is the winning coalition for that theory of the case, right? So the Trump theory of the case, read the Tim Alberta article. The winning coalition is Republicans plus populists, particularly including working class, non-white voters who are already becoming more Republican and have long been more conservative. That's the Trump coalition. Add on top of that people that are upset about immigration and upset about inflation. And then you also finally need two other things. One, you need to take on your own party. No one is elected by essentially just focusing on the base. Everybody who has been elected president in the 21st century took on their party in a very important way. It wasn't always as dramatic as Sister Souljah, but they've all done it. And then finally, you need a team that will allocate resources according to your overall plan. One can argue that if in 2016 Hillary Clinton had allocated resources more smartly in certain Midwestern states, she would have been elected. Lasavita and Wiles argue in the Tim Alberta piece, and I agree, that if Republicans had maintained the approach some of us had earlier to early voting, Trump would have won in 2020. I believe that to be true also. So that's what I think we all need to be watching for. Can she do those 6 things? What is her theory of the case? Why is she the right person to be president? Not just she's not Trump, but what is the underlying thing people are looking for that she solves? When I look at the country, what I think people are looking for is a combination of 2 things. In the face of inflation and the border and assassination attempts and concerns about crime and all the things we see in the world, they want a combination of strength and stability. Between November and June, the reason the race was close but Trump was slightly ahead was because people thought Trump better had these things, but they worried about his stability. He had strength, but did he have stability? When he showed stability, when he was disciplined, he pulled ahead a bit more. When he didn't, he fell behind. Biden was able to keep relatively close because of concerns about Trump's stability until the debate, and then his strength quotient clearly just went away. So to me, those are the things I'd be looking for, those 6 performance indicators as against where the country is, looking for someone who can bring strength and stability to a scary country and a scary world.
Brilliant masterclass from Ken Melvin, who managed President Bush's reelection campaign. Ken, thank you. Sean, let me unmute you. Go ahead, or unmute yourself. Go ahead, Sean. Ken, thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Awesome.
Thank you for the kind words. Real quick, though, I want to go back to the staffing issue. Let's just say that the role you were in the roles that you get the president steps down, the vice president comes in. Do they have to stick with the team, or how much can be changed at this stage of the race? And that, going back to the question that I was asking, is she stuck with the team in Wilmington?
Are you asking me that, or?
Yeah. Putting
you.
yourself in those shoes.
My own view is this. I think people can come on and add value, but if you look back in history, it has to be done very carefully. So think back like this before all of our time, but you read the history books. Like I think James Baker, the great James Baker, the greatest of all time, came back in 92. And when he came back, it didn't work so well, in part because he came back light and resource allocation decisions had already been made. The fundamental job, when I was running the re-election campaign, my job fundamentally was, you said it so well, Tim, I was the CEO of a startup. I was spending as much time obsessing over how we allocate and spend resources. And I was thinking about like who I was going to say to the president when I flew with him on Air Force One. And the challenge is, I have huge respect for David Plouffe. Brilliant guy, great guy. The question is, will he be able to come in and have not just the nominal authority, but the moral authority by which every single person on the campaign is doing what he says and living what he says? In 2004, my obsession was metrics. My obsession was, how do we improve our performance among 1, Hispanic voters, 2, suburban women, and get conservatives who hadn't turned out to turn out before. Literally every county, every precinct had data according to that. Everybody that was focused on media understood whether those viewers were watching particular shows that we booked people on. Our delegates were focused on that. The only reason all those people bought into that was they were part of the theory of the case. They owned it. So you have to be careful. You can bring in someone. I think the idea of bringing in somebody could be a good idea. Again, nobody is smarter than David Plouffe. He is absolute master. Messina is similarly outstanding. The question would be, does the organization follow them in a way that everybody's rowing in the same direction, or are they like the Washington guy, right? We're all familiar with people in corporate America and in political America who are famous names who come in, who the media likes, but who really don't own the organization. So what I would say is, do the hearts and souls and minds of all the people that work there move in that direction. I think La Savita, I've seen him perform, he has that, and I think Susie has that, and that's what they need to make sure they build in this campaign.
Ken, thank you.
The one point that I'm sorry, I know we're a little over, but I think this is critical because the key, based on the 6 things that you outlined, are for Biden currently. The team in Delaware is focused on those 6 things theoretically on Biden. And the point that I'm trying to make or understand from your standpoint is if you take the person, you shift it, it's a different theory based on the 6 things that you've outlined that now have to get. And so those people in Wilmington are focused on the case and the theory of Biden. And doesn't Kamala need to bring in people that say, I understand her theory of the case?
I think she does, and I think that the people in Wilmington can also have that theory. But she needs to together develop it, put it forward, and ensure that it's built into how the organization operates. And that doesn't mean it's a whole revamp. It means, but it's an important tweak and a substantive tweak. And if all they're going to do is to say Trump's a bad guy and it's about democracy, I don't believe that solves it. Again, attributes that solve an underlying problem. Democracy is not the answer. Trump lost last time not because people worried about democracy. He lost last time because people worried about chaos. They worry about what's important in their lives. So if the democracy point could be a challenge to him if they think it brings chaos to their lives. If I was Trump, my response to that would be, you know what? You said it was bad with chaos. You know where there wasn't chaos? There wasn't chaos in what you afforded. There wasn't chaos in crime. There wasn't chaos on the border. There wasn't chaos in all the things that mattered to you. Was there chaos in Washington? Yes. I created chaos in Washington so you wouldn't have to deal with it. That's a pretty good answer.
Yep. Ken, thank you. Really great, generous of you to share all of that. All right, guys, we're way over. So here's what I'm doing. I'm bringing in everybody who had their hands up. And I'm going to say, here's your opportunity to participate. We don't have time to unmute and do that. Raise your hand if you're one of the folks with your hand up. Raise your hand if it's Harris Biden or Harris Trump. Raise your hand if you're going to vote for Trump. Raise your hand if you're going to vote for Trump. All right. So we're only Ronnie of the folks with the hand up. Everybody else Biden. Here's or Harris. Here's the question: does Harris have a better or worse than 35% chance of winning? Raise your hand if you think she's got a better than 35% chance of winning. Raise your hand. Everybody, about half of you do. All right. Again, apologize for not getting to the questions. We're way over time, and we do try to stay on schedule. Appreciate everybody joining us today. We'll be back here tomorrow, same time. I'll be back with a 2-way tonight at 9 Eastern time. You'll get a PM. You'll get a notification about that. Tomorrow we'll be back at 9. Wednesday we'll be at 8 a.m. You'll get a notification about that as well. 9 o'clock 9 a.m. the rest of the week. Thank you all for participating. Grateful for you. Spread the word about 2-way and about the morning meeting. Have a great day.